once I see the review, I can generally match that to what I'm feeling on the device anyway. But let's start with the live session now. The snowflakes have fallen on that countdown timer, and thanks and welcome to everyone for joining. And we're going to spend about half an hour, but before I do that, I need to switch 2 cameras on. That's that one's recording. And the other one's recording. It means I can do some editing offline with a couple of cams, and I might run away and bring that cam in so we can do some close-up. I can actually see people watching through the window outside, so that's good. So one of the gags here, sitting in the co-working studio in Bonn, was that I wanted it to be in front of the windows so that we can kind of do a little bit of advertising, a little bit of marketing with the people walking by, and I hope that the word will spread that there's some crazy guy in Bonn sitting well, basically sitting behind a window waiting for clients with a bunch of lighting that I could switch to red at any time. Right, we're going to spend about half an hour. I've got 4 devices here. I'm trying to monitor the chat on the YouTube channel. If you're on umcportal.com/live, at the top there's a little link there that will take you to the YouTube channel, and you can join in the chat. If you've got any questions, or more importantly, and I know a lot of you guys are experts, correct me if I'm wrong. That's always one of the great things about doing live reviews, is that get feedback. For example, I know the R13, there's a couple of people out there that might actually have it already in Broadwell version, and they'll be able to feedback things like keyboards. So keep an eye on the chat as well, and talk to each other in the chat, and we get much more value out of it. Stickers on the windows. Chippy is here. Well, what I'm thinking of doing is something exactly like that. So, for example, when myself and Nicole are here, we'll put a little banner on the window, and maybe we can relay the live stream on a screen to the window. I could actually put it on a 3-meter beamer projector here, but we won't do that. Right, let's get started. So what have I got here? I've just done the video of the Acer Aspire R13. This is this crazy 2-in-1 3rd generation. This is the Skylake version, 13-inch screen with a Skylake Core i5 in here, and the RAID 0 SSD, 2x256 gigabytes of SSD configured in RAID 0. We're getting over bear in mind that you can get over 1 gigabyte a second out of a single SSD in the Surface Book, because that's PCIe connected. This is 2 M2s, so it takes standard M2 drives and gives you 1 gigabyte per second of sequential read speed, and a 4K write speed of about 50, 60 megabytes per second. So absolutely no bottlenecks on the SSD, and I connected my little, it's not here, but USB 3 SSD, and got a maximum 350 transfer rate out of that. So it's absolutely barrier free in terms of storage speed there. 256, well, I'm actually coping with 128 gigs of SSD on my Surface Pro 3, loading up videos, editing videos, and deleting them afterwards, or at least transferring them to another system. So you can handle 256 gigs of storage with anything. I don't believe that anyone really needs a terabyte unless they're lazy. And the Lenovo U31 has a terabyte SSHD in it, and I was kind of thinking that would be nice to just bung all my videos on them, just leave them there just in case there's anything that I need to recall. But at the end of the day, once the video's gone up in YouTube, that's it. I'm not going to adjust it. I'm not going to re-edit and re-upload it, so I don't really need the old file. So what I'm doing now is pretty much a day after the YouTube videos have gone up, I delete them off. So 256 gigs would be nice. Now then, there's the multi-mode feature. You've got this rotating screen here that goes into tablet mode. 1.5 kilos means it's not a very good tablet. In fact, it's a pretty horrible tablet. A little bit clunky around the edges, a little bit sharp. And hey, 1.5 kilos. Who wants a 1.5 kilo tablet? What you might want, though, is this little mode here, which I find really, really good. So you're typing away. You've got the screen, the touch screen, just centimeters away from your finger. And I found that really, really nice to just get some interactivity on the screen. And as we get more like Windows 10 Universal apps, we can get much better touch capability in the apps and really make use of that. You've also got the presentation mode there, which is also quite nice. If you want to show clients any design, any work that you've done, that's a nice way to do it. But also, if you're having a coffee and you've got news up there, couple of apps there, Twitter, whatever, you can just sweep through stuff while you're having your breakfast and stuff. And I like that mode as well. So there's a lot to be said for this little carousel type design here, although it has to be said that that extra frame is probably adding a couple of hundred, maybe 300 grams to the whole design. There's a 50 watt hour battery inside. You can get 1.5 kilo devices with 70 watt hour batteries inside, and so you're not getting the top end battery life out of it, but it seems to be pretty efficient. And 5 to 7 hours of Wi-Fi surfing and video playback isn't a problem. Isn't a problem there. You've also got, in terms of connectivity on this one, they've put the USB-C port in it. Now I'm not sure if it does the power over USB-C because there is a separate power. I was going to double check that. There's a separate power port there, but it does have Thunderbolt 3 on it. So you're getting 3 times the speed of a USB 3 connectivity over there, and you can put your Thunderbolt devices on there and get display going through that, and no problems at all with that. That's not kind of important to me right now, and it probably isn't too important to many people at this stage of the game, but maybe in a year's time that could be really, really useful. 3 USB ports, an HDMI port out, no display port, but that Thunderbolt would give you that if you needed it. No backlight on the keyboard. Oh wait, yes, sorry, there is a backlight on the keyboard. I was missing that earlier. There's a backlight on the keyboard, but as I mentioned, that keyboard is a little bit light, a little bit, not too much throw on the keys. There's not too much clickety-click going on there. Sandy, Mark, thanks for joining. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat. We're running the live set. If you're watching this on YouTube, this is a live session. We're running chat in the background, and this is a one taker. So the Acer Aspire 13, 1,050 euros for that. Good performance, good battery life, nice screen. It was an accurate screen when Notebookcheck tested it. Check out their full review, notebookcheck.net, Acer Aspire R13 Skylake version. Let's go from that to another 2-in-1. And this is a Core M based 2-in-1. This is the HP Spectre X2. Also, well, this is a 1,400 euro device, but I think this has the 256. This has got 256 gig SSD inside, 8 gigs of RAM, as did the R13. But a Core M, 1,400 euro, and a very nicely designed device, a very high-end device with a backlit, removable keyboard. I think aiming a little bit too high there because that Core M is not perfect. Having said that, up against the Surface Pro 3, it generally keeps up, and in some respects is a little bit better because you've got a silent, fanless device here with a very latest Intel HD engine inside. So for example, video rendering with QuickSync actually turned out to be faster on this than it did on the Surface Pro 3. And the Surface Pro 3 heats up and downclocks very quickly, whereas this seems to stay nicely at its 1.7, 1.8 gigahertz max dual core speed. And of course, you've got Skylake generation in there, Haswell generation in the Surface Pro 3, which is just hiding behind the screen. You can't see that. Dang Nguyen Dang, I'm sorry if I got your name wrong, but he's asking, what's a good computer laptop for school uses? Is that a good computer? Acer. School uses, well, it depends what you're doing. A lot of people at school are doing nothing but just running school apps. Some people are actually thinking about university and thinking about entertainment in the evenings as well. So gaming plays a big part in a lot of that. This U13, I'll go on to that in a minute. It might be interesting for you. But let's go back to the Spectre X2. 12-inch screen, and that's a full HD screen. Nice, again, nice colors, nice contrast, nice brightness on that. The contrast is not as good as the R13. It's down at around 800, if I remember that correctly off the top of my head. And the full brightness under... No, wait. I think it's 900 is the contrast, and the full brightness is around 350 nits. So actually it's a reasonable one for outdoor usage. It's got quad speakers on here. They weren't too good. The keyboard and the mouse pad is excellent, top notch, a nice big mouse pad there, and the keyboard throw and feedback is pretty good. Of course, you've got that classic problem with the bounce on these kind of type cover keyboards, which is sometimes a bit of an issue. And also, I think the biggest issue on this one is there's no native display output, digital display output, at least cabled. You've got a USB-C port here. It makes you think, USB 3.1, maybe USB 3.1 Rev 2, maybe USB 3.1 Rev 2 with DisplayPort. Unfortunately, this is a USB 3.1 Rev 1. So you're kind of led to believe that this might be able to handle those docks that will give you a display port or a HDMI output, but it doesn't do that. So how do you get display output on this? Well, you have to buy something like a display link adapter. The docking station I'm using behind this screen is a display link adapter that's going to this big screen, so I don't actually use any native outputs on the video there. Or you can use WiDi. WiDi is useful in some situations. For example, if you're just working on WordPress or Office, the latency that comes into this wireless display is not too bad. But there is, once you start getting big screen changes, a lot of movement on the screen, a latency can be 100, 150, 200 milliseconds, which you will really notice. If you're gaming, you will not want to game under that. Of course, for video playback, that initial latency is not an issue. You just watch that delayed by 200 milliseconds, and that's not going to be a problem. The latency with the mouse cursor, when nothing else is moving on the screen, is perfect. It's almost indetectable. So WiDi has come a long way since the first tests I did, where the mouse pointer was lagging all over the place. And so that's the way you get the display out of the Spectre X2. I also tested the Lenovo Mix 700. That's not here. That went back yesterday. That's also a very nice device. Very much the same as the Spectre X2 in terms of target market and design and style. Core M5 in there, but still pretty fast, as fast with rendering as the Core M7 that's in this one. Also had 8 gigs of RAM. Also had, I think, 180 gigs free on the SSD. That is priced at around €1,000 and has more connectivity on it as well. So you get a standard USB 3 port, a second USB port, and HDMI port as well. So compared to the Surface Pro 3, you're getting those extra display outputs, and also compared to the Surface Pro 4, which I don't have here. So that's a nice advantage. If the price comes down on that Lenovo Mix 700, I think that's going to be a nice device. Certainly the keyboard on it is pretty good, probably better than the X2. I've got a video up of testing on that last IFA last September, where I felt it was good and confirmed this week that the keyboard is actually pretty good. So that's the Lenovo Mix 700, and really we need to watch prices on those, because these are not new classes of devices, newly positioned devices given the new rebranding of Core M, which was the old Y series processors. So now it's Core M, Core M3, Core M5, Core M7. These M5 and M7s, I think the manufacturers are feeling they can push the prices up. If they don't get response at those prices are going to come down. It shouldn't be an expensive processor, and I think we'll see some good prices on those as we move along into 2016. A new EliteBook Folio announced at CES out yet? I don't know. Since I've been doing Notebookcheck reviews, I've kind of moved back a stage in the process of PCs being announced and then available. Where I was working before at the announced edge, I'm now working at the available edge, because I'm now doing mainly video reviews for the devices that are out there. But so you'll know once we get that at Notebookcheck that it's out. Unfortunately, I can't tell you right now. That was the Spectre X2. I don't want to go more than sort of 35 minutes on this stream, so I'm going to move on to this kind of budgety, but it's interesting because current prices range between $750 and $999 for pretty much the same configuration. And that is Broadwell Core i7 with 256 gigs of RAM and 250 gigs of SSD, 8 gigs of RAM, and this has got Broadwell Core i7 with a 5500. Can't remember the name of the GPU inside, but actually clocking down a little bit lower actually than the Surface Pro 3. So in my rendering tests, it was actually a little bit slower than the Surface Pro 3. Having said that, it seems to be a pretty solid device for €749 that I saw it at recently. Although that was a red version. I don't think anyone's going to be worried too much about red if they're going to save themselves €250 or 25%. But I guess that black version or the white version will come down afterwards as well. Again, quite thin and light, very much Ultrabook style here, although this doesn't have a touch screen. This is a matte screen on this, and a good selection of ports, including gigabit Ethernet port there, HDMI, 3 USBs, and a full SD card slot. The only problem with this one, small battery inside. It also has a screen with a contrast of around 800, and brightness on battery drops down to 250 nits, according to our tests at Notebookcheck anyway. And that means this is not an outdoor device, which is a real shame because that's a lovely matte screen and this should be an outdoor device, but it's not. Small battery is 35 watt hours, which means you're down to sort of 4 or 5 hours Wi-Fi and video playback on this. So this might be a device that's useful for students. So useful for taking out to class maybe, and then coming back and then having to work on it at home with Office or whatever you need to do. Light gaming on this. Oh yes, because it's got the 920M inside, GeForce 920M. So there's a little bit of gaming capable on this one. In fact, much better than the raw Core i5, Core M5 devices here. Gives you a boost, probably about 25, 30, 40% over the embedded, over the built-in graphics on the Core systems. So that's the Lenovo U31. Watch really carefully for the price on that because it could be a good buy. Not the best in terms of keyboard, so for those who are asking about school usage, maybe that's not perfect for note-taking. It might be good enough, and then go home and then use a proper keyboard and a proper screen to really get a desktop use out of that. U31, watch for the prices. Right, let's get on to the big boy. Right, MS has a new Wi-Fi or WiDi adapter. I didn't know that they had the version 2 out yet. Mark Bradley, thanks. And that is useful information. I'm using the Action Tech ScreenBeam Pro, which has been really stable. I've had it about over a year now, and it's been really stable. Firmware updates, and I think Intel worked pretty closely with Action Tech to make sure that one's up to speed, because I often see it at trade shows on the Intel booth. That's the one they use. So I'm not saying that it is closely connected with what Intel are doing, but I think they do have some connections between each other on that. Answering the question on the U31, that's not a touchscreen. I'm not sure how delayed this stream is, but it could be 20 to 30 seconds. Surface Pro tablet, are they pricey from within? From within? From within where? Sorry about that. Okay, let's go on to the Surface Book. I've got the big boy here. You could probably buy 3 of these for the price of this. 2,700 euros. We've got the 512 gig PCI connected SSD in here. It's got the Core i7 high-end CPU. It is a screamer. It really is the most powerful Ultrabook based PC I've ever tested. It doesn't throttle down. Now let's say laptop. I've never tested any U-series PCs, for example, NUCs and things like that. But in terms of a laptop, this is obviously a 2-in-1. I'll just switch that on so we can actually take the top off, one of the disadvantages. Incredible performance. It just doesn't down throttle. I actually tried to put this through about 20 minutes of rendering with a heater pointing to the back. Don't tell Microsoft. With a heater pointing to the back to try and get it to downclock. It would not downclock. It sits there at 3 gigahertz, dual core processing forever. We've got Windows Hello, which is really good. Much better than the Lumia 950 XL in terms of One of the good things about having a live stream is that you can't hide problems. Surface Book just crashed. Just as I did a Windows Hello login. We'll let that start up. Can I take the top off? Is it going to allow me to release the top? One of the big issues for me, oh, there you go, it is actually letting me take the top off, is that it's a electronically controlled mechanical release for the screen. Now that means you can't take it off when it's not switched on. It also means that if the battery in here is low, it won't let you take the screen off. So if you just wanted to go from there to there, which you can't do that if the battery is below something like 10%, I guess. So that's a real issue. Also, if you've got an app running that's using the NVIDIA GT940M inside. Is it the GT940M? You can't release the screen. You'll have to close down the app that's connected to the G40M before you can release it. That makes sense, to be honest. There we go. There's the Windows Hello. Very quick and very accurate and very reliable, and does it from a nice distance. Whereas I found with the Lumia 950 XL, I was doing this all the time, and you know, you walk along the road, it's not so good. But this makes absolute sense to have Windows Hello on a screen like this, because it's on the desk. You just sit to the desk, and before you know it, it's actually unlocked. You don't even really have to pay any attention to it. How much battery have we got in here? 70 to 80 watt. I think there's a 52 in there and an 18 in there. I think it's about 70 watt hour battery. So really huge battery life on this. It seems to be very efficient as well. The screen, although it's a very high resolution screen with potentially very high brightness, the screen does seem to be pretty efficient. So they've done a good job in making this nice efficient. So you're getting a really, really long battery life out of this as a laptop. Of course, when you release the screen, you're working on HD graphics, which for some people is absolutely fine. And I believe that if you want to use this as a desktop docked over DisplayPort with the DisplayPort connector on, he says, mistake. The connectors are actually on the base. So you can't even do the Surface Pro 3 trick that I've done here and have USB display link over USB. Once you release that tablet, let's try that again, you have zero physical connectivity apart from the headphone port on there. I'm just going to really double check round, because I made a mistake on the Spectre X2 recently by saying it didn't have any SD ports on it, but it has a micro SD card slot on the top. So yep, there's nothing on there. Of course, it's nice and clean, and it means, of course, there's more space inside for battery, for thermal airflow as well. But it does mean that if you wanted to use this with a screen, you have to use it over wide-eye, which actually, if you've got one of the wide-eye adapters for presentations, really nice with the pen. You can walk around and do some really nice sort of annotations on PowerPoint as you do your presentations. So I'm a little bit confused about this product as to whether it really is just like a marketing gag, a showcase, a demonstrator for OEMs to show them what can be done in terms of two-in-one design. Whether Intel were involved along the line, I don't know, but it is a good demonstrator, and it's just, for me, for this price, not enough. 2,700 euros gets you a huge quad-core gaming rig. Well, actually, it gets you a nice 13-inch gaming rig as well. The MSI, what was the one I tested recently? I think it was an MSI 14-inch gaming rig, which was only 2.3, 2.2 kilos. Had a really huge battery in it as well, and was much more powerful for doing video work. Question here from someone: how long will it charge at a low power until full? Very good question. I can tell you that the Surface Pro 3 power adapter, if you're using this heavily, just about keeps up with the charge, and that would be about 15 watt. But the adapter with the Surface Book is about twice as powerful. I watched the curve of charging as we charged it up. Now, I'm just going to try and project in my head how long that would probably take. And I would say 2 hours if you have low screen brightness idle, maybe 2.25 hours that last 10%, takes a little bit longer. So as long as you're using the Surface Book adapter, and as long as you're not using, if you're using this for gaming, even the Surface Book adapter may struggle to keep up with the charge. I dare say it will keep the charge, but it probably won't charge very fast as well. So that's one of the issues. And of course, if you want to use the tablet, you've got to charge it from the base unit as well. So that's a little disadvantage there. Yes, 2,700 euros is insane pricing. It does make me wonder whether this really is, one of the sort of gold-plated iPhones of the world that no one wants to buy, but everyone wants to talk about, and everyone likes to report on, to give it a bit of free advertising. The entry-level version of this, I think, is around 1,400 euros, and that's without the discrete graphics card in. And does it have the M3? Someone help me on that. On the M5 Surface Book. Let's see what we can see in terms of sort of street pricing here on the Surface Book. Core i5, Core i5. I think it's just Core i5 and Core i7 versions, isn't it? Surface Book. Yeah, Core i5. So that'd be Core i5 with the 8 gigs. Or something tells me there is a Core M version. Now that's the Surface Pro 4. It's the Core M version. So cheapest price I can see from this is 1484 euros with the Core i5 6300U, 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of SSD. Thank goodness entry levels are now 8 gigs of RAM and not 4 gigs of RAM, because we're getting to the stage now where 4 gigs is not enough. I am struggling with 4 gigs on this Surface Pro 3. I need to upgrade ASAP. Right, yeah, the CEO, the boardroom stuff. It's the people who can afford this. And yeah, we should talk about insane pricing with respect to normal people, of course. For some people, 2,700 euros doesn't matter. If this actually saves them over a course of a year in terms of video rendering, 20 hours, 30 hours, and they're charging 150 euros an hour, well, they have no problem in justifying the Surface Book for photographers doing previews on in the field, for example, with that nice screen. Also could potentially justify that nice that price. Headphone port, and you can charge it as a tablet only. Mark Bradley, you can charge it as a tablet only. Has it got wireless charging? You need to fill me on that. Mark Bradley in the chat there says can charge it as a tablet only. I'd like to know why and how. Is there a little can I put the either this is going to blow up or we're going to have charging. Thank you very much, Mark Bradley. The power adapter, although this is the Surface Pro 3 power adapter, doesn't really stay held in very tightly, but it does charge. I am very sorry, and I will correct my video notes for the Surface Book on that, and that actually solves one of the big issues I had with it, and that was charging under tablet only. So thanks for the feedback. That's exactly why we do the live streams with feedback, because people can help me when I make big mistakes. Brooke Zerion actually confirming that as well. Right, now I think we've probably done a good half an hour stream already, and it's time to do the unboxing part. I've got a feeling I'm going to run out of SD card on the recording, certainly over there. Let me we'll go for the unboxing of the ThinkPad Yoga 260, which I haven't got a clue about. I have not had a chance to have a hands-on with this. I haven't read much about it. So actually that might be nice to go in blind on the Yoga 260. I did pull it out for a quick demo on video the other day. And let's have a look. Does it have that lovely keyboard that folds away? It does. Yes, it does. Right. Forgive me for bringing up the details from the Notebookcheck review on this Lenovo Yoga 260. And I really do advise you to go over to the notebookcheck.net review page for that, where we scored it 86%. That's a good score. Actually, we rarely get anything higher than that on Notebookcheck. 86% is a very good score. And I don't want to give the game away. I'll do the video review of this tomorrow, but I have checked out the ThinkPad Yogas before, and of course you've got that fantastic keyboard. We're back with the separate mouse buttons now and the touch pointer as well. We've got fingerprint reader here. It feels light, it feels sturdy. We don't have replaceable battery on this, do we? Although there is a section there that would pop out. That is probably for access to disks. I know the ThinkPads sometimes have that. We've got a digitizer pen stowed as well, so that's really nice to see. I think this is a LTE version here. I can see the SIM card holder there. We've got a micro SD. HDMI, not DisplayPort. Yes, we have DisplayPort as well. That was surprising me. And I've even got a smart card reader on this one, and this must be the high-end version. It's probably Core i7 vPro as well, although it just says Core i7. Oh, and look, it's an Ultrabook. They're still using the Ultrabook branding. So I'll let you into a little secret. When I was at IDF, Intel Developer Forum, 2014, I was talking about the demise of the Ultrabook and how I thought that the Ultrabook spec, the Ultrabook standard, gave people quite a bit of confidence in knowing what they were actually going into. You knew that you were going to get, for example, at that stage, a touchscreen. You knew that it would be built to a fairly high standard. You knew that it would be using a U-series processor. And certainly for business as well. And what happened was I got the feedback that, well, you might see the Ultrabook brand coming back in 2015 in terms of business. And looking at vPro and that sort of stuff, the Ultrabook brand, they were talking about connecting that with vPro for thin and light business devices. Well, obviously the ThinkPad is a business-focused device, and the Ultrabook brand is on it. So maybe I should start writing for Ultrabook News again. I haven't written on Ultrabook News for a long, long time because I've been focusing on UMC Portal and this video gig that I've got with Notebookcheck. Just checking back onto the chat to see if you've got any questions. Where does NBC get their Lenovo's from, Damia? Ping me offline. I can tell you the answer to that. Don't want to give anything away that I'm not allowed to. I am not a spokesman for Notebookcheck, although I am the video manager. What's my take on buying a laptop? Is it better to have touchscreen or non-touchscreen? It depends if you can get used to touchscreens. I have been a touchscreen user since 2006, back in the UMPC days, the origami days, the days of big fat 7-inch resistive touchscreens. And I'm a fan. I actually have a problem if I don't have a touchscreen in front of me because I'm always using the touchscreen to try and access, swiping in, I'm moving stuff across. If you're a sort of person that it takes a bit of time to get used to big changes in laptops, I would say hold off on the touch side of things. There's a couple of reasons in addition to that sort of learning curve. Number one is the weight. You're adding about 100 grams when you put a touchscreen on. The cost, although the cost is not that great, the manufacturers are putting a lot of cost onto the touchscreen versions. They see it as an iteration above the standard model. And the second thing is battery life. So having a touchscreen enables a couple of things that go on in the background with Windows 10, for example, the on-screen keyboard. And you might find, and we found this with the Dell XPS 13 QHD and the Dell XPS 15 QHD. When you've got a really, really high resolution touchscreen, it's really struggling to push the light through. We get deltas of about 4 watts from low to high brightness on the screen in idle, and that is really killing idle battery life and background battery life. You want to start with about 2 to 3 watts in idle and not 5 to 6 watts, which is really going to give people a problem if they're using it all day. So that's my take on touchscreens. I'm a fan, but if I was sensible for business use, I probably wouldn't use a touchscreen. Righty-ho, so much screen wobble. Why are hinges so poor on modern hybrid Ultrabooks these days? Because of the thickness and the lightness. This one actually isn't too bad, but there's a bit of bounce on it. Sometimes that's not too bad. If you had a really, really stiff hinge and it got a big bash, the actual the force ends up at the hinge. If you've got a screen that wobbles slightly, maybe I'm really just trying to stick up for wobbly screens. But that is one point to note. If you're in business, having a wobbly screen can sometimes save your hinges. But I do agree that there's a lot of wobble on hinges these days. And because you've got a touch screen, you don't really want that. You don't want that wobbling around all the time, especially if you're doing some artistry, some design work. you probably want the stiffer screen as possible. Why don't manufacturers provide you with some sort of little clip here that will just fold up and go there with a little bit of adjustment there that would give you a nice strong angle. That's my tip for OEMs for 2016. Get a nice strong touchscreen digitizer enabled screen there. Really lightweight this though, 12-inch screen, and I bet there's a nice big battery. I'm tempted to just quickly go to the specs on Notebookcheck and have a look. 1,500 euros on this. Oh, 44 watt hours. Not too brilliant in terms of battery capacity, because what you get on 12-inch screen is about a 4.5 to 5 watt if you've got it nicely, efficiently built, and you've got screen down to about 150 nits, and you're close to the Wi-Fi, about 4 to 5 watt average drain. So you could get 8 hours of efficient web browsing out of that. And if this is nicely built, the only problem is business builds, especially with vPro, have a lot of processes running in the background. And this is a Windows 10 Pro on this one. Yeah, which also adds a whole bunch of stuff going on in the background. So maybe this is not the most efficient build to start with. Go to the review at notebookcheck.net and you'll see all the information on the screen. They've done tests. These guys do the best testing in the world. Well, having been involved in their test process, I can tell you it takes a long time. It's a 3-stage process. Let me give you a little bit of an insight of what happens. They get the device, and there's one senior editor that does the testing, and they have the Kalman screen accuracy measurement device. They have noise measurement devices, heat measurement devices. They now have an infrared camera as well. They go through all those standard set of tests, and they're the same well-controlled tests every time. And then the device goes on to senior editor, who then does the rest of the review and the write-up. So that's that 2-stage process, and we're also getting me in the 3rd stage of that process with the videos now, hoping I'm adding a little bit of value to it, and maybe a little bit of maybe sort of expert hands-on, expert feedback, and these sort of chat sessions as well. So yeah, definitely check out Notebookcheck's review on that, because from what I've seen over the hundreds of reviews I've read over the last year in dealing with devices, and about 20 or 30 reviews I've done for them myself, their process is very well refined and very well fixed. So not a lot of variance in their testing there, which you'll find with some other websites. Wow, that is a big review. They've even got display response time measurements, pulse width modulation testing with an oscilloscope, and huge amount of I can't stop. I have to look at the battery life. I have to look at that battery life. 5 hours 46 minutes Wi-Fi surfing. I bet I could get a bit more out of it than that. This is out of the box, so of course if there's background software running, especially McAfee. Also, one of the things we have to be really careful of in our testing is the first couple of days of using a device where things like indexing is going on, a defender is doing its stuff, or other virus checkers are doing its stuff. Updates happen in the background. Updates get deployed. Those things can take days to run through, and we have to be very careful that we got everything updated before we do our testing, but we don't remove major amounts of software before we do our testing. So it's in some of these cases it's possible to go down and rebuild Windows 10, for example, from scratch, or to take out a lot of background process, stop background process starting up, and get a nice efficient build. Right then, we're going to get to the end of this stream now, and I want to thank you all for watching, and I want to thank Notebookcheck for just sort of letting me do this stuff on the side, Co-working Bond for letting me run this session here. And if you could please do me a favor, if you could tell me whether the audio was good, whether the video quality was good, and obviously we need to get a close-up camera here. Obviously we need to get this sort of stuff done with a close-up camera and a switch, so we can get really close in, so I can show you the keyboards, for example, so I can show you close-up on the ports. And I think we probably need to do longer streams as well. We used to do one stream with one device for 2 hours and do a live review we've just done 5 devices in 45 minutes. So that might be one thing that we'll do. Good. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Chippy for Notebookcheck and at Co-working Bonn, in Germany, with YouTube live stream. By the way, I'm using an Elgato game streaming device here, which was 150 euros. I picked up from a local electronics shop. Straight into the Surface Pro 3 and pretty much directly streaming out to YouTube and Ustream without any problems at all. So if you're looking, Damir, for anything to capture screens, this will capture up to 30 frames a second. There is a 60 frames per second version. Or to do to capture video cameras, I've got the Canon Legria HF G25, which is known as the Pixia G20, I think, in the US or outside Europe. We've just got the HDMI cable going into the capture, and that's going into the Elgato software, and it's streaming out. So obviously we need to switch it to make that into a dual cam setup. Thank you very much for walking. And we'll see you on the next live stream. Take care. I will hang around just for a few minutes because I know the stream is delayed by up to a minute in some cases. Portable mic would be good. So one of the things we have a problem with in here is echo. My acoustic solution hasn't been deployed yet. It's actually with the Änderungsschneiderei. What's Änderungsschneiderei in English? Damir. The people that adjust clothes, and I've sent them a big sheet of Multon, and they're going to be adjusting that, and we're going to have a couple of sheets which will be coming up here, which will really help with the echo. At that point, I can get myself a lavalier mic on. I have got one behind here, but it just picks up the echo too much. This one is very directional, as you can hear, and it also helps with the street noise. There are cars literally 5 meters away from me, and I don't think you can hear those. So that's one of the advantages and one of the reasons that I've got this Audio Technica closer up mic, and I think the quality is quite good as well. Damir says, yeah, many already recommended the Elgato. Seems to be the one to go for. I will give you a little tip from Sasha Forster, one of our co-workers here, who's done some work with Elgato. What it doesn't do is give you a standard video device that you can use with other apps. So although Elgato will capture and save and do some streaming as well, it won't give you a standard Windows video device. So you can't use it with Hangouts, you can't use it with Wirecast, and you can't use it with other devices as well. There may be some software that you can add in, and there may be some tricks, or there may be an upgrade on the Elgato software or the firmware that's fixed that. But as far as I know, you're using a very Elgato defined process in terms of streaming hardware and software. So that's one thing to watch out for. But I think if you're going to feed this stuff into a switcher, which is going to do your lower thirds and your switching, then I don't think that's a problem. But if you want to do overlays and stuff like that with just this device, then you have a little problem with that. Will help when you are not talking directly to one. Yep, totally agree. Thank you, Ascaris. We will fix that, but I think it's just important. Everything was great. Audio and video, just add behind shoulder cam. Shoulder cam, exactly what I'm going to do. The camera's over there at the moment, but obviously I can't switch it. Maybe in the post-edit I can do a video with the two cams. I have been. This thing here, this is great. Have to demo this. Just slot your smartphone in there, switch it to 1080p, and you have a really nice little bit of kit that stays pretty much exactly where you want it to be. It's a mic stand, and I've kind of adapted it. So what that does for me is in my non-live videos, I get this as a third cam so I can get really close in, or I can do things like that to show a little bit of studio video as well. I'm also thinking of doing MHL out of a smartphone with an adapter into a switch as well, so that might work as well. Having said that, if you're going to spend 300 or 400 euros on a smartphone, you're probably better off just spending 250 euros on a dedicated video cam that has a power in a decent battery, a zoom, proper HDMI out, and a microphone in as well, so that you can use for other things. Rightio. Taylor, of course. After 15 years in Germany, it's sometimes difficult to get the right English words. That'll do. I'll see you on the next live stream. Thanks very much for tuning in. Spread the word, and see you on the next stream. Bye-bye.